These are the repairs that suck. I was chatting with a guy on Instagram and he was asking me how to fix a roasted maple neck that the screw hole blew out the side grain here. And I was telling him we should glue it and then add a splice and a splice. And then he asked, can I do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. This is just one of those repairs that pisses everybody off. Roasted maple is a little bit brittle, and he didn't use the right screw size, and pop, it exploded. The one concern I have about this, I don't know if you guys can see it, there's two cracks here. There's the one crack here, and then there's a crack going up. And my fear is that this crack going up is actually a problem crack, and so what I actually have to do is a little bit more complicated than just gluing this back on. I'm gonna have to run a spline in here and clean that up because I think there's some internal stress happening here in this neck, and even if I glue this up, I'm not going to be able to clamp it shut. I can't do it. I can put my finger in here and I can't do it. This one, I'll be able to clamp shut. I can just feel it. It's moving a little bit. What we'll do is we'll actually use some regular Titebond wood glue. We'll force this in. Wasn't going to use super glue or anything like that because I still want to put a piece of wood over it. So I've got some regular Titebond. I'm going to open up the crack just a little bit more, like so. And this way we can squeeze some of the glue into the crack. Get it a little sloppy in there. Definitely gonna have to do some sanding. We'll get a toothpick. Again, we're going to open this up a little bit more, like so, and just take the toothpick and run the glue in here. Make sure it runs down in. A little sloppy, but we'll wipe that up. And we want to make sure we get it in there. I could see it going down. So let's open this again. I can feel it cracking just slightly. I think these need to be drilled out a little bit more, these holes. Alright, I think we're as good as we're going to get. Two clamps. We're going to clamp from the side and clamp from the top. I think we'll start with the side clamp here. We'll compress whatever noise is going on. Actually, we'll probably use 3 clamps. Compress the side, put a clamp right down, right here. We'll take another one and pull it close. It's too close. Clean up some of the mess. Now you can see I've closed that pretty good. I think I'm going to put one more clamp coming down off the top. Wipe some of this off. Get a little water. Clean up the back side here. Not sure if this will hold. We'll try it. Let's come back. Yeah, it's squeezing some of the glue out. So that's good. Definitely need some sanding, but I've got a nice tight clamp on it. We'll do is let this dry. We're gonna have to sand some of it out because we're gonna put that other piece in. We'll see how this goes. So here's the jig that I've got. It's the CNC rails. I screwed this down and held it down, and then the router with a 1/4-inch bit will run right over it. So we'll take a couple passes here and just go over slowly. I take a little bit less than a 1/16 each time, and I'm going down about a 1/4 of an inch. Here that looks pretty good. And then we're gonna take a spline, whatever you guys want me to call it. It's a piece of roasted maple that matches this roasted maple. It's got a little bit of flame on it. It's not exactly perfect, but it'll match the tone and the color of the wood. So we're gonna sand this down. I already had it pre-cut on my bandsaw. I've got 2 of these to cut. You can see the other one right above. The thing with these is that you don't want them to fit too tight, because when you apply the glue swells the wood just a little bit. So you want it to have it just slightly tight, but slightly movable as well. When you're applying the glue, you want to make sure that the glue is on the sides of the wall and on the top of the spline, because what's going to happen is as you push that piece of wood in, it's going to push the glue down, and you're going to get all the glue on the bottom of the joint. So you're going to make sure that you've got a little bit of glue on the top of the joint as well. We're going to put a couple clamps on here and clamp this down, and then as I'm clamping it, the crack on the side is oozing some glue as well. So we're going to adjust the clamps and drop one more here to close that side that's leaking a little bit. We're then going to come back with a wet paper towel, wet rag, and clean it up. So then I've got a curved gouge, and I'm just taking a real thin piece of wood. My toolbox, I readjusted, and it's moving on me, so this looks a lot worse than it is, but I'm really being in control of the gouge and just taking real little pieces of this. Got to be careful. And I probably spent about 5 minutes doing this and just going over it slowly. Then I've got a chisel. Once I got it far enough down, this cuts it flat to the other pieces of wood. I'm going to trim the overhanging edge there. And then I've got a knife that I'm just carving off the back side that's sticking out. I didn't want to take a file to this, so I've got my whittling knife, which actually works really well. A little bit hard though with the maple. So once we get it flush, got a little bit of a file here to get it flush, and then we'll come back with some sandpaper and clean it up a little bit more. Still have a ton of sanding to do at the end here. So once that's dry, let it sit for a couple days. We then adjust the CNC rails and my router to do the top part. And again, we'll take a couple of passes really slow with a 1/4 inch bit. And here we're going about a little bit less than a quarter. I think we're doing about 3/16. As I saw the glue oozing out, I can tell I've got it repaired with the other one, but this is just to make it look nice and flush. This is what you'll see. Again, got a toothpick and the glue. Make sure it's spread pretty evenly. And then we'll go ahead and clamp it. We let that dry for a couple days. And we come back with a saw and cut off the excess. This is a Lee Valley crosscut saw. It's really a nice tool. Does end grain really well. And here we're just seeing how much effort I need to put into that. A little bit more than I want. And we'll come back with the gouge and go really slow and just level it down. Come back with the chisel, make sure it's flush. And I'm going really slow here, real delicate motion, which obviously you can't see in a sped up video, but I am going at it really lightly. And then we cut the edge here. Had a little nib hanging off. So we'll just trim that. And then we're gonna sand the heel where that piece was sticking out. And then we'll come back with some sandpaper and really sand at this. We'll start with 220 up to 320. A little bit of glue that needed to be cleaned up with the razor blade. Didn't want to go with a really aggressive sandpaper because then I'll have too many scratches. So stayed with a lighter grade sandpaper. That's why it takes a little bit longer. And what's nice about having the roasted maple is that this matches pretty well. And there you can see it. I don't have the exact oil that he used, but I've got it all sanded. And if he adds the tongue oil like he had on it, it'll be perfect. So then this is a couple weeks later. He sent me a couple additional pics. And it matches really nicely. Really happy with the way this turned out. Quick and easy repair if you have the tools. And as you're cutting and drilling with roasted maple, always go slow and use a little bit bigger of a bit when you're screwing in. That way you won't get this blowout. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video.